Hi folks, Bob Collins for Diver Supply. You know, a few days ago I got a good question from one of the viewers about a couple of regulators, and I started to answer in the comments section, but I thought, you know, this is really a good subject for doing a this or that type video. Like you've seen before out there, some people call them versus or comparison. I just call them this or that, just like I call the ones that go into a whole bunch about how things work, button pushers. Now, it's kind of an interesting comparison between the Aqua Lung and the Maris, and I think you'll find some interesting points in this video, so I hope you stick with me. Now, the first thing you're going to notice is that I've switched these, and the reason I switched these is when I wrote up my comparison and such and my notes, I actually have the Maris on this side of my paper, and I have the Aqua Lung on this side of my paper. Helps me make sense of what I'm doing. Let's talk about these in general. First thing most people want to know is, how much is it? Well, I'll just tell you this, the Maris is about half the cost of the Aqua Lung. Does it mean the Aqua Lung is twice as good or the Maris 82X is half as good? No, not really. There's some interesting differences in these two regulators that should be pointed out, and I'm just going to kind of bounce back and forth, and I think you'll be able to keep up with me without too much trouble. Number one, let's talk about the first stage. When you just look at these two first stages, there is quite a bit of difference. The Maris 82X has a PVD finish on it, and it's a satiny silver color. I'll try to get a close-up here in a minute. And it's got a satiny silver look to it. It's also got some black composite material on the outside for impact protection. One of the other big differences is the 82 first stage has a turret on it. Now, when we look at the Aqua Lung Legend Elite, it has I think they call it triple chrome finish, and you can tell that it's a much more expensive finish on this regulator and a lot closer to what many of us have seen before out there, and it just speaks of quality. As a matter of fact, in the video, one of the comments, and I was out front one day and a lady even made a comment and repeated what I said, this particular regulator is like a piece of jewelry. The first stage on the Aqua Lung is a environmentally sealed first stage, but it is also what Aqua Lung calls a dry chamber. So even though there's a hole in the top of the first stage, water doesn't actually go into that chamber. It's a dry chamber, and the water pressure pushes against the diaphragm and the spring there. Maris 82X is not environmentally sealed, but it is a balanced first stage, just like the Aqua Lung, and it responds just like the Aqua Lung to increases in pressure, which, if you're not aware of how a balanced first stage works, as you go deeper, it senses the water pressure on it, and it raises the intermediate pressure that comes down the regulator to the second stage. So the deeper you go, it raises that intermediate, which keeps your breathing effort pretty much constant. One of the things that both of these regulator first stages have is, and they call it two different things, is a closure device on the opening. Now, both of these are yoke regulators. So on the Maris 82, when you put it on the valve and you tighten it down, it doesn't use that pressure to open that closure device. That's what the Aqua Lung does. What happens is when you close or tighten down the Maris and then you open the tank pressure, that is what opens and allows the air to go into the first stage on the 82X. They're both automatic closure devices. They call it ACD and they call it AST. When you look at the Maris, one of the things you're going to notice right offhand, and one of the things they talk about, of course, is the fact that this regulator utilizes a turret. Now, the benefit of a turret is if you have an extreme amount of head movement and you're pulling your second stage hose around, then that flexes on the turret. Now, the Aqua Lung doesn't utilize a turret, but it does use angles. The first stage actually is CNC machined, and the hoses are in an angle to help that flexibility. One of the other things on the Maris first stage is the high pressure hose. If you mount this with the turret up on your valve, then what's going to happen is this high pressure port for your high pressure hose, gauge or whatever it happens to be, it is angled down that allows it to come down and come up under your left arm. So that's kind of unique. Now, what they did was sometimes people don't dive with the turret up. Sometimes people dive with the turret down. And if you get kind of a close look, again, I'll try to zoom in on this. One of these is angled down while the other one is angled up. So if you do mount your unit with the turret down, then this high pressure port is angled down. If you mount it with the turret up, then that high pressure port is angled down. And of course, over here, if you're using a transmitter, maybe you've got an AI computer, then this is where your transmitter would go, and of course your backup gauge over here. That's kind of one of the unique things about the 82X. When you look at the Legend again has the CNC machining so that you've got these hoses are angled to match what you're trying to do with the positioning of your hoses. Of course, you can mount this with the head or the vanes. This is a heat exchanger is really what it is, and this makes it really effective in cold water. This has that heat exchanger and the 82X doesn't. So this would be a better regulator in cold water. One of the things you'll also notice on both of these regulators is that these hoses on both of these are the new style, and when I say new style, there's new and there's really new. These are new to some of the companies. Some of the companies have been always putting the hard rubber regulator hoses on, and many of the companies have kind of updated what they're doing, and now they're putting on. And of course, the braided hose, I mean, you can just see how much more flexible this hose is versus the hard rubber style hose, especially once you turn the tank pressure on, of course. All right, let's talk a little bit about the second stages. And one of the things that you're going to notice is that and I'll kind of hold these next to each other, you're going to notice that the Aqua Lung second stage is a little bit smaller than the Maris 82 second stage. Now this is a composite second stage, and the second stage for the 82 is actually a metal second stage. It has a lot of composite material on the front and on the side, and both of these are extremely attractive second stages. Now you'll also notice right here on the Aqua Lung, here's another finned heat exchanger where the air would be warmed when it comes out. Y'all know that when air goes from high pressure to a low pressure area, out of your tank to a low pressure area, down the intermediate hose into a lower pressure area, it's good that because that is cooling it just by going from a higher pressure to a lower pressure. And again, both of these are just gorgeous. You're going to see, again, the chrome styling cues on the front of the Aqua Lung. Now this little mouth guard, this piece is for cold water again, and this just pulls right off of here. And this is, there's a couple of these ComfoBite mouthpieces included in with this regulator. Now, you're going to look, and what you're going to see on the Mari's unit is a very attractive looking grill, if you want to call it that. A very attractive looking grill. And if you look at how the purge functions, can you see that? I think maybe you can. It actually hinges from the bottom and tilts in. And so it's got a really nice action on it. Now over here, the Aqua Lung is more of a standard type of hard material like a silicone cover, and is very durable, vents around the edge of it. And again, it's a really nice looking piece. One of the other things that we need to talk about is the adjustability. Now, both of these are, again, balanced second stages. One of the things you're going to notice is the Aqua Lung has an adjustment here with a lever on it. I think you can see that. And what that's doing is making the second stage more or less sensitive to your breathing. And one of the other things that you're going to notice on the Mari's is it does have a cracking or breaking pressure. In other words, when you suck in, adjustment here on the side that's similar to the Aqua Lung. But one of the things that Mari's has done, and in the past, there used to be a knob and a lever here. Well, now what Mari's has done is they've come over here and they've adjusted this. And again, I'll try to get a close-up. And this whole piece right here will adjust. That turns to make the unit less or more sensitive in the way it's directing the air that comes out of the barrel, whether it's turning and going against the diaphragm and then turning and coming into your mouth, or whether it's turned and it's now turned so that it's basically pointing right in your mouth or right down the mouthpiece. That gives you a little understanding on the two. One of the other things you may notice is the fact that even though the Aqua Lung second stage is a little smaller in size, actually the vents are wider than what's on the Mari's. And some people, you know, like that when they're stationary and a lot of bubbles are coming up in their face, especially if they're in a seahorse position when they stop instead of a neutral buoyancy position. That can all be, you know, resolved by having a wider set of vents. And some of the Aqua Lung units, some of the EPIC, some of the others, actually have changeable vents that allow you to make it wider or more narrow. It's kind of up to you. In kind of closing here, what I want to say is one of these better than the other? And I'm going to say not necessarily. If you want to spend more money and you want a flashier rig, and especially if you're going to be diving in cold water, I would spend the extra money and get the Aqua Lung. If you want a thrifty, well-performing, kind of unique, good-looking piece, both of them have the automatic closure device, but I would probably, again, budget-minded, I would stick with the 82X. But it's your money, it's your billfold. I'm here to be a resource for you folks. I love it when the people come in the store and visit with me in Jacksonville. And of course, you're welcome to shoot notes, whatever you'd like to do. And please give me a thumbs up or give me a thumbs down if you don't like what I say here. I always read the comments and I look at what you folks think about the videos that I produce for you. And of course, right here at Diver Supply, we work hard and we do our best to bring you the best in information to help make you a smarter or a more informed. Maybe a more informed diver is better term than me using smarter. So again, let us be your resource. Call our 800 number. Everybody that answers the phone on our 800 number, they're certified divers, and many of them are actually instructors that you're going to be talking to. But call and talk to some of them, Jerry and Glenna and the folks up there. And if you would like to call Jacksonville and speak with me, phone number's down there. Give us a call. So in closing, dive safe out there. As always, thanks for watching, folks. See you again soon.